So I've just taken some examples from the book, and we'll go through how to do these things. But I need to check that you really understand what we're doing and how we're doing it. There are multiple ways that we could answer these. Okay, so I've got here in the textbook. There's like lots of examples. I thought I'll take a couple of examples from each question, and then you can get the books out and finish off using these examples. So practice 4. Find the percentage. So what percentage of 100 is 75? Does anyone know how to do it? Few people? Okay. You explain it to me. Make it make sense to the people that don't know how to do it, and everyone else is going to be fully concentrating and knowing how to do it. Make it make sense. So what percentage of 100? So we would say you scored 75 out of a possible 100 if you want to think of it as a test. Okay? Which is 0.75, which if we then do 0.75 times 100, we get 75. Now, we could do that, but obviously the answer is just what we started with, because yeah, because percentage, remember what percent means? For 100, for every 100, yeah? Right? So what we can think of it with questions like this is, if I were to do 100 questions, 75% would be 75 correct out of 100. If I didn't take 100 questions, I could still do it, so I could compare, yeah? I would say, if I did do 100. But in this question, we did do 100 questions. So 75 as a percentage of 100 is 75. 96. Okay? Are we fully focused?
Oh.
Yeah. If you want to write that down at the stage. But before we do, should we just talk about the second one, which is slightly different? So 36 as a percentage of 48. So let me ask you this. Is the percentage value going to be higher or lower than 36? Because, so 36 out of 48, if we were going to do 100 questions, we would definitely get a lot more right, yeah? So 36 out of 48. Now, how would you do that? What would you do? Oh.
Well, for some reason, how I do is I just divide them until I could get. So first I did was I divided them 1 by 4, and then I divided them by 3. And then.
Okay, so well, you haven't explained why, but let's do it. So Colton said we could divide by 4, and we get 9/12. That's divide by 3, gives you 3/4.
And I know it's the same as
Okay.
that could find an element that's 0.75.
Or if I use the method you were doing, I could say 4 times 25 gives me out of 100, which is 75 out of 100 again. Yeah. Or like you said, things that we know, 3/4 we probably know is 0.75. Yeah. Same as this one.
I was trying to get
The other method is to say that 36 divided by 48 is 0.75, and then we do 0.75 times 100 gives me 75%. So we've got several options there, yeah? This would be a non-calculator one. these two, well, this one's a transfer of knowledge one. I know that 0.75 and 3/4. It's one that a lot of people do remember. And then we've got where we actually do, it's a division, so we do that. If you want to write that down before we move on to the next example. This is where we change it up a little bit, and we have to be very careful come assessment, because it's what we kind of prepped for. All right, we should hopefully have a good understanding of the percentages and that kind of thing. We have talked about these ones, but it's how it's worded. If we know, right, that 50% of something is 20, right, we can say 50% of what is 20? Okay. So,
Oh, it's different. Oh, wait.
so let me ask you this. Is the number bigger, smaller, or the same as 20? How do I know that? 50%. Okay. So what we're going to have to say is that, well, 100% of that is, well, that's times 2. So that is times 2, so it's 40. Yeah?
Or you could just double 20.
What I just did.
In a more simplified way.
What you mean is without writing it down? It's not more simple, it's just not writing it down. Now, here's another thing. Another way to maybe think about it. We're introducing you to kind of a algebraic approach potentially. So what I'm going to say is this. 20 divided by something equals 0.5. That's another way to think about it. Okay? And I might then say, instead of 0.5, I might say 20 divided by something is the same as 50 over 100. Yeah? Do we know what we would do then? Well, I think you're right, actually. We could say if we divide that by 10, we get 20 over x equals 5 over 10. And then what would I do? Times by, well, I want the tops to be the same, so if I times by 4. So that would give me 20 over x equals 20 over 40. Therefore, x must equal 40. I probably think this way would make more sense, but we're starting to introduce slightly different ways to thinking.
I just did it in by 5.
It's not times by 2 though, is it? It's times by 2.5.
Oh.
Or 2 lots of 20 is 40. Oh, I see what you mean. You're doing this method.
50.
Yeah.
That's just.
That's what I'm saying. That's the first option, isn't it? I was just introducing you. This is a method that you might, for this one, go, that's unnecessary, but potentially this is a method we will get to grips with in the future. Yeah. So let's have a look at the next one. 10% is 12. So 10% of, I'm going to say X this time, equals 12. So, would anyone like to tell me how you can maybe do the first methods? Yeah. Why?
Because 10%. You can say 10% is just like 1 out of 10. I don't know how to explain. I gotta say how that's just saying. I don't know how to explain it.
So 10% is 1/10. So if you or 10 10% is 10 out of 100. And to get 100 out of 100, which is what you want to get here, you times 10.
Yeah. 10 lots of 10% is 100%. So if I know that 10% of something is 12, well, I need 10 lots of that to find out what 100% is. So it must be 120, yeah? You okay with that at the moment? Yeah. I won't do it the other way. If you want to show yourself doing this method, I'm not going to go through it at all. Get on. Okay, finally, find the number when given the percentage. So what is 25% of 100? There's lots of ways. Phoebe, well, how do you do it?
I'll let someone else do it. 25% of 100 is
How can we show that? Lots of different ways.
because 50%.
Well, look,
Okay,
How am I
50%
It's just no.
is 50.
If it does
25% is, yeah, this one's nice and easy, isn't it? But like, how many different ways can we answer? So that's one way. What's another way? Is what? Oh, yeah. So 25% is 25 over 100. So 25 over 100 of 100 is 25. Another way, anyone got a different another way?
like you just like you guys have 25 the bulk would be 25 in this situation. Because 25 is when you run the very it both does.
Yeah, let's see whether you can apply that. Otherwise, I'm not quite convinced that. Is it going to be the same all the time? Okay, I'm thinking that 25 out of 100 is the same thing as 1/4 of it. So 1/4 of 100, well, I can do 100 divided by 4 is 25. Another way we could think about this, the word of is multiply. So I'm going to say that 25, this is the bit that I'm going to tell you now is a bit that you're going to use forevermore once you get to grip with it. 25 out of 100 is the same thing as 0.25. The word of is the same thing as multiply in maths, isn't it? Hang on, let me finish. So I'm going to do 25% of 100 is the same thing as doing 0.25 times 100, which we know how to do because you times it by 100, you move the numbers over 2 times, so you get 25. Just another. Now, this is a method you are going to get used to using. Maybe you're not going to do it yet, but you will do it in the future. Is anyone? Yes.
So it's just 25% of 100 is 25, so 40%.
Yeah.
until it gets to 20.
Well, then it changes. That's what I'm saying. So we need methods. That 25 of 100 is, I'm glad it's very simple for a lot of you because that means you have 25% of 100 is a nice and simple. I'm glad you're all finding it simple because it means you're understanding percentages and things. Okay? If I ask you what is 25% of 100 in assessment and you write down the answer 25 with no working, that's fine. Yeah? But if I ask you to show method or show that it is, you would have to show me working out. Now the thing is, if we just say, oh, they're always this easy, when we get to one of these, 20% of 50, what would you do? Because this is obviously, this one is just, oh, well, that's 40. Yeah, done. We all happy with that based on what we did here? So how could we show how to do 20% of 50? There's lots of different ways. Let's come up with some different ways. What do you do?
Times each by 2.
Okay, so 40% of 100 is the same thing, yeah? Which is 40, not 40%, it's 40. That's one way. Can I just ask you, does that answer make sense?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Really? Does it make sense?
Yes.
Max said no. Why not? I'm with you, Max.
20%. 40. No. You just divide the 40 by 2.
Why doesn't it make sense?
It's 40.
40 is almost 50, right?
Yeah.
20% is not almost 100%.
Divide 50 by 25. Yeah, it's 25.
Are we happy that this is not correct? Yeah? Okay. It doesn't make sense because 20% is only a little bit of it, isn't it?
Oh, just divide 50 by 5. And then that's the answer.
Okay, so 20% is 20 out of 100 of 50, which is, if we simplify to 1/5 of 50, we can then say, well, it's 50 divided by 5, which is 10.
You take 50 then times it by 1/5.
Yes.
That's basically it's the same thing, but
Yeah, the other thing, we could say 1/5 of 50, as I said over here, of is multiply. So 1/5 times 50 is 10, or 1/5 is 0.2, no? 20% is 0.2. 0.2 times 50 is 10. Now you might not be comfortable without a calculator at this level, but you might be.
the only reason why it's not is it's a bit easier to show that than I can.
Oh, it's coming from.
Oh.
Let me think of it maybe a slightly different way, which is if 20% of 50, we want to know what that is. Okay, well, could we work out what 10% of 50 is? How'd you do that? We would just do 50 divided by 10, which is 5, and just times it by 2. So take this, times it by 2, that would be 20%. Take that, times it by 2 would be 10. There are so many ways of making these calculations. And you will all probably develop your own comfort zone in how you want to do it. And however you want to do it is absolutely fine as long as you can explain what you're doing and why you're doing it. But you may well find when things start getting a bit harder, you might have to adjust your method. And some methods are easier to make useful in a harder situation. Okay. But at this stage at the moment, whatever method that you fully understand works for you, you choose. And you might go, well, I can't use my method for this harder one, and then that's the stage you need to go, well, what do I need to do to adapt to do the harder ones? Okay. All right, any questions on those so far? No? Okay, I believe that's it. So, you now, I've given you some examples from these ones. So, page 68 in the book. Okay, you've got the rest of these that we've done a couple in each one. Do those, it'd be good to practice. You'll see they get harder. So this is where we test your method. See if you can figure out how to do it. Feel free to get your calculators out. Practice those if you can get as many of those as you can. And then, obviously, the harder questions are when you get to the words. It's starred because that's a really hard one. Okay? So these are your questions to do. So, textbook, page 68, 45 minutes. How many can you get through?
Wait, just page 68.